decide, who are you? Are you the one who will help correct the family? Are you the one who was born?
I sure am. I'm the one.
You the
I'm the
one.
Neo. I'm the.
You're the one. You decide. I'm the one. So when the phone call comes, you'll be like, yeah, I'm the one, right? Okay, I'm gonna be detached.
Damn, that's such a
That's the
powerful
technique.
move.
%95 of trauma is multi-generational. That's just how it works. We unwittingly pass it on. Whatever was passed on to you happened through your parents and through your parents' experience in life, which they hadn't quite resolved by the time they had you. That's how I would say that the multi-generational is passed on. And a lot of, sometimes some people tell me, I had a perfectly happy childhood, and that usually takes me about 3 minutes to sort that one out. I think the more people understand their own traumas, the more see with clear eyes the traumas of others.
Trauma travels through families from one generation to the next until someone is ready to face it. For most families, their survival strategy is avoidance, avoiding the pain, pretending it's not there, not talking about it or unconsciously dumping it onto other people. But the pain never actually goes away. These pains demand to be felt and seen. And one day, a child will be born to bear the burden of feeling all of those generational traumas and have the courage to change it. They will be the black sheep of the family. They will be unusual, quirky, and even creative. They won't follow the norm, and they'll be questioned, criticized, shamed, and guilted. But if they don't crack under the pressure, they will heal. They will write a completely new story for future generations and become the lighthouse for others to break away from the chains of the past.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. We are happy to have you today. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tarvars of the Sun. And today we will be talking about our ancestry. We'll be talking about how it is that ancestry is alive and living in us. But before we begin, Tarvars, will you bring us into Call for the Truth?
Most certainly. And we encourage those who are tuned in to join us in the call for the truth. Shall we call forth the frequency of truth to come forward? Shall we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth in all that we say? Shall we call forth the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? And here we are. Call for the truth regarding ancestry.
Yeah.
And I know you've been working with people.
Yes.
Well, first off, Of a Sun has been working with ancestry for a long time. We have services with varying levels of working through ancestry. But in recent time, this focus on getting out or addressing those deep hidden lies that have been held within the family, the pain and the suffering, and how that's transferred to us.
Yes.
And so what prompted or inspired that in recent times? Because it's kind of like it's coming back around full circle in terms of our scope and focus.
So many of those who are coming to us are really struggling with ideas about how they feel about their mothers, how they feel about their fathers, whether they feel that they're being aggressed, whether they've been given the opportunities that they should have had. Do they resent? Did my mother not make sure that I could go where I wanted to go? And did my mother do all the things to keep my father off of me? Did my mother, stand up for me in school when something happened? So a lot of that has come to the surface in recent time. So we are doing work to bring peace back into the soul of the children and those parents that are alive and those parents who have passed on and the grandparents and the great-grandparents, because we are the living reciprocal. We are the vessel of the living DNA of all of our ancestors. And it is in each one of us in each successive generation. And it has become quite confusing for us to understand, given the dynamic of the construct of the society that we live in. When we see people on social media in private jets, and we see that their parents have done things to support them, and we think that we are them. And we think that our parents didn't do enough to give us the opportunities because we don't understand the construct of the third dimensional world. We don't know how things work. We don't know that every child that's born must fight its way down the birth canal to manifest a life in the third dimension, and that everything we encounter is to support us learning to be warriors for life. We don't get that. So we think somebody's supposed to pick us up and carry us to our bath and then rub us down and dry us off like when we were babies forever. But it doesn't work that way. So a lot of adults are angry and upset that the parents didn't do enough. Like, you came here and you were born and you're not doing enough for me. You know, like, surely that has happened in your own relationships where somebody's like, I don't like what you're doing. You're not doing enough to please me. Well, that's us as a generation and the generation before.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a lot to be said, and I think everybody who's listening can see themselves in it on whatever side of the spectrum. You know, whether they were the parent who has the resentful, entitled child, and I can see myself in it too. You know, I've spoken to you about this in the past, and you've watched me move through the experience of resentment and feeling like you didn't give me enough, Mom, and where one of the things that I realized is that somewhere in my journey, I had to put myself in Mom's shoes to see. And you know, you share this understanding that we are our ancestors. We're not separate from them. And I don't know the moment that it happened or what it was exactly, but what I do know is that I really lived the principles of that understanding. And like, you know what, let me see what Mom's experience was like. Instead of feeling like she didn't do enough for me, she didn't put me in the art school, she didn't do this and do that. And actually, when I was so resentful, I had turned out pretty great considering where I came from. And no offense, like what's going on with my siblings, you know, it's like, damn, you made it, but you're still holding on to this thing. And when I put myself in her shoes, literally, to see what it was like, be a little transparent here, a 16-year-old mother in the hood. And she did what was within her bandwidth of understanding to do. And I got it. I was like, oh, I get it. It makes sense. I see why things were the way they were. I see why she is now. And then even more so, I see the things that are in me that I don't like. And I want to keep changing this. I got to do something about it, instead of, you need to be different.
Right.
You should have done differently. So I see your point.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
It's so multidimensional because you chose her.
Yeah.
You know, it is not that the parents choose the child. It is that the child chooses the parents before they are born, because the parents are already here. We can already see what their path looks like. And the child says, okay, I think if I go to that parent, it will make in me the thing that needs to grow so that I may move into my greatness. So you chose her not because she was going to hand you art school. You chose her because you were going to be artists in spite of whatever happened.
Which is the case. I ain't got no art degree.
You
but
are.
Look at me. I am art. Come on now. But that understanding of it's so powerful, and it flips the experience of suffering, because most of the people listening likely have the understanding that, okay, there's loot patterns within the family structure and things that are inherited, ancestral curses, as they say, and see the need to rise above it. But I don't usually see this perspective of, I chose this so that I can gain and then help them as well, which is a whole nother aspect.
Everything is a golden nugget. Every difficulty, every challenge is a golden nugget to encourage you to fight for your own life, to fight for your own creativity. And in so doing, you influence the ones who you came from, and the ones who they came from, and the ones who they came from. So the work that I'm doing currently is people who are coming to me who are having such difficulties with the ancestry, most usually the immediate parents
Mm-hmm.
and or siblings, the family line. I'm encouraging them to flip the script and see what kind of shame and hurt and suffering have they kept silenced within them that happened in their lives and in the lives of their mothers and their fathers that have made them react to you for what you think is a terrible thing of them trying to stop you. But what fear in them is the fear that is in the living DNA that's trying to ignite in you so that you will be quieted and stay safe, because they stayed silent, quiet. They also kept the secrets of the family, the things that happened. That uncle who don't nobody want to go near,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things in the family, the one who didn't think quite right, or the one who, seemed kind of dark, and all of these different ideas. This is in our parents and it's in our grandparents. Who went to the penitentiary for doing what? you know, who whose children are whose children and why.
Right.
So we have all of that in our ancestry, but it waits for transmutation. It's awaiting us to stop pushing against it like I hate you because you're doing things that make me feel repressed. But it can be transmuted if we can move into their experience and see their hiding, their pain, and their suffering. We can then transmute that into a place where we gain and they gain too. That's called love.
Yeah. I see the compassion within the idea and how, you just recognize, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, great grandpa, auntie, uncle, we jacked up. We done been through some things. And it's not justifying the behavior, but recognizing, just as like you say you need soul clearance, they need soul clearance too.
But it's not just that they're jacked up. It's that's living inside of us.
Yeah.
That's peak. And as you get older, it starts to peak out.
Mm-hmm.
With your children and your grandchildren.
Where
you start arguing with them and fighting with them the same way your parents fought with you. You live through the same lineage. You drop them like your parents dropped you. That's the same pattern. It's the same DNA. For us to collapse these structures, we have to recognize that it is us living alive in us. And if we don't address it and confront the darkness or the anti-life, the pain and the suffering, the shame and the sadness within us, the fear within us, it continues into our children and grandchildren.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else for it to go.
So one thing that I'm gaining from this is being in acceptance of it, not in denial. Because when the last statement that you were sharing, I thought about how people will often say, I'm never going to be like mom or dad. I'm going to be different. And then, of course, they end up playing out the same. And, some people see it. They're like, oh, my gosh, I'm being just like my mother. No. But I think that it helps to be in acceptance, not denial. That way we can address it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that I'll speak from my point of view. I look in the mirror and I see my parents. I'm not always happy about that.
Yeah.
But what I recognize is that the wonder and the glory of who they were does exist in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am encouraged to pull that part forward. The part that is still in dissidence with me, whether they're living or dead, there's still dissidence with what I am and what I do, if that's in me. But the other part is the glory that exists within me is the glory that I got from them.
Yeah.
So me having compassion for the life they have lived and for their experience allows me to release whatever I think they didn't give me. And then because I'm still breathing, I can go get it. It's not up to the dead people to give me what they couldn't get, what they were unable to pocket and experience. I am still breathing, I can go get what I need and add it to the pot of our glory, then we can all celebrate. It's spiritual. There is no wall between life and death where my love doesn't penetrate the ones who are not here, or my great grandparents and the things they went through, and the suffering and the hiding and all of the fear that they experienced as human beings on the planet exists living in me. It's up to me. I'm the one who's living to transmute that into glory. It's up to me to make that. It's not up to me to say, my grandparents didn't give my parents, they didn't get what they needed, so I didn't get what I needed. So now we 5 generations deep, and all that means is you're still living and have something to do. What else you gonna do? What else? I mean, like, how else will you use your life force? How would you spend your time? Making banana pudding? Like, what are you gonna do?
You don't know how deep that hits, because in my family, that's a generational recipe. 3 generations down. I'm like,
that's
still making that banana pudding.
It's okay, baby. Have this banana pudding.
If my sister watches,
I
she's
got
gonna turn
extra
up on me.
sugar in it.
I want to go back a little bit, because you were talking about how the positive influence of the DNA and how we can call and pull on that, because the family experience is rough, and it's not often that we are looking at the exaltation, because we're seeing more so the detriment of the family. But in what you're saying, I see where we have just as much as there is a weight of the negative within the DNA that we have to address. I see that there's some positive aspects too. We can call on it.
Do you know how much of a genius you have to be to have stayed alive in the generations before us and now? Do you know how genius we have to be to navigate not getting killed by all the different things trying to kill us? The genius that exists in us, the divinity that exists in us, is available to us. We are just distracted from the things that we don't want to hear, we don't like, or that they repeat it too often.
Yeah, you're like, I heard the story already. Stop telling me.
Yeah, like, where do you think you got your artistic ability from?
Yeah, somebody deep in the lineage.
Yeah, so.
And I be calling them, show me, hey, help me with time management. I know one of y'all was real good with it, and then somewhere in the generations, we done dropped the ball. But I'm about to pick it back up.
I was going to say, but what are you here for?
Yeah.
What are you here for? To revive that. When we do a soul clearing, there is no demarcation, like, Georgia ends one place and North Carolina begins another. There's no demarcation in the energetic world. So you're dead, you still get the juice. I become glorious, you still get glory. I get clear, you get clear, wherever you are. The unborn babies that have not come forth yet, my grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they get the glory. There is no detriment to being exalted. And the exaltation already exists in the lineage.
Yes.
Because how else did they survive long enough to call for children?
True that. And so on that note, I'd like to shift the perspective just a little bit from those who came before us to the future, because we do get a lot of clients who they're dealing with issues and circumstances with their children. I had a client the other day, and she had concern regarding her son's emotional disposition. She's going through a divorce, or got divorced, and she can't quite get through. And one of the solutions that I shared with her was, you work on you so it can inform the DNA. Because again, this idea that you spoke on, the mechanics of our universe, is that what we do moves back, forward, up, down, left, right, through time and space. There's no real separation. Could you speak a little more on people who may find themselves in that situation where, like, my children are messed up and I want to do something about it, but like I can't quite force them. Maybe they are beyond 7 years old and they're developing into themselves.
That usually goes through several stages where you recognize it, you fight with it, you realize you can't change them, and then you usually step off. And then we get that person.
Yeah.
That person comes to us and says, they won't let me see my grandchildren. And this is their excuse, or they're withholding they know I want to love their offspring because I love them, but they're mad at me because I divorced their father, or I did this, or I won't do this medical thing or that medical thing. And So the children are now withholding the love of the grandchildren from the grandparents and using it to beat the parent with a stick.
Yeah.
There is a response to that. That is, make yourself greater. Make yourself, and determine, like if you determine, and I have done this myself, determine that you will not take from me what I didn't give you. That's my DNA. You have to make a decision that belongs to me. I made your organs, I made your liver, and that's my DNA living in your child, and I shall not be denied. That is not your decision. That didn't come from you. That came through the lineage from all of us, for all of us. And so you make the decision first that you don't have that power. Half the work is done. Then you work on yourself. You work on recognizing the confusion of the time we live in, and people wanting to take power from those who they're closest to, because other people won't give them no power. So if they could take power from the ones who are, your mother is most willing to give you her power. So that's why I'm going to take the power from my mother or my brother or my sister or my father or my son, and I'm going to use that power to make myself greater and feel like that's appropriate. So that at one level, that's a level of understanding that the power is all of ours. At the other level, so this is multidimensional.
Yeah.
So at one level, it's like, oh, this is a pot of power for our lineage and our DNA, humanity at large, but in our tribe. And then you work on you being in love and detached from the thing you love. Like, I love you, and if you fall down, I will not feel it, because we are detached from one another. But I love you, and if ever you were going to come here, I would bandage your knee if you fell down. But if you don't let me, I'm still loving you, but I'm detached from your outcomes. I know you're going to bump your head. I'm sorry you're going to bump your head, but maybe you bump it enough, you'll come by and I'll put a bandage on it.
Yeah, remember those good old days? Mom used to rub you down, kiss the boo-boo.
Yeah. Like, will you kiss that boo-boo? Oh, absolutely.
Sweet nostalgia.
Yeah, it's the truth. I mean, we should remember our families are karmic. This is kind of an experiment.
I just thought about what you say often.
This family circumstance we have is an experiment. We need to make it work because we have the living DNA in us. So your disposition towards your relatives is your disposition towards you. If you tooth through with them, you tooth through with you.
Yeah. I remember you told me years ago, I had this negative disposition to family. This is before I fell in love again, or rose in love. And I was like, I can't wait to get up out of here so I can leave them behind. I can ascend and get away from family. And you're like, how you going to ascend from your DNA? Like, how you going to ascend from, like, they are you.
Yeah, you cannot ascend away from your living DNA, but you can rise so high that the tailwind takes them forward too.
And that's what I'm leaning into, because I see it.
And it's happening in your life.
It's so real in the field. It's a beautiful thing. And that's why the last time I saw my family, my experience was so much more elevated, even with their dogs. Like, the dogs was loving on me just as much. It was like, damn, they over here trying to get on you.
Yeah, but the dogs have to deal with them too.
Yeah. Like, T, help me. No, but the point is, like, I could see my change, but then I could also see, that needs to be addressed. But again, this truth that we're talking about, let me go back to home base and work on me, and then reassess to see how the changes have matriculated, more or less, because you've mentioned, like, sometimes people may adhere, sometimes they might not.
Well, also,
still gotta be free.
Sometimes it's a matter of time. Like, if you let the mob that is the family come against you because you're doing something the family doesn't like, you're saying something they don't agree with, and you let them come against you, and you let them win, then you lose.
Yeah.
But if you hold the fort, and they grow older, and they have more experiences, and they can call upon you and you still deliver, and there's still respect and love that of self. You give yourself respect and love, you're giving them, you're transmuting respect and love to them, they may shift.
Yeah.
And if they don't, it's all right, because at some level you have improved self to the point where you are in the glory of you. And that counts, whether they acknowledge it, whether they don't acknowledge it, whether they die cursing you or whether they don't, it still exists. Some people are just stubborn and they're just never going to give it to you. But like you went home and you read it, they didn't have to tell you. You could read it in the experience that you have gone through many experiences with the family at varying levels. But the more you love you, the more you about your own dedication to a logic, reason, understanding, elevation, spiritual advancement, the more jammy it is for everybody.
Word.
You know, so it's a real thing. So the real solution here is what stands outside of you is you. Everything you see, everybody you see is a reflection. They're the hologram. They are the fractal that is you. They exist as you, created from you to reflect back to you. So what best works is get you straight. As you get, there's no downside, even if every single person does it, but there's no downside. There's no loss in getting yourself straight.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Well, two questions, but we'll start with this one. How can people reinforce that? Because I know for those who are listening, they're like, I feel the truth of that. But when they're in it real time, they get that phone call, start getting annoyed. the truth of the hologram drop, it's like, can't stand them. Like, how can a person reinforce to stay within that truth of the oneness, especially with DNA?
With DNA and with anything else, whether it's a lover, whether it's a boss, whether it's family, with anybody, you must sit quietly and decide, where are you? Don't wait for the phone to ring and somebody catch you off guard and say something to you, and then you have to try to figure out, your head is spinning, and decide ahead of time how you will be with the world, with the intimate world. Decide, who are you? Are you the one who will help correct the family? Are you the one who was born?
I sure am. I'm the one.
I'm the
Neo. I'm the
You're the one. Decide, I'm the one. So when the phone call comes, you'll be like, yeah, I'm the one, right? Okay, I'm going to be detached.
Damn, that's such a powerful
That's the technique.
move.
But it's the technique if you go to work and somebody, I have been in jobs where someone has said something to me in work and then other people have backed it up. And I've said, oh, I didn't understand, but I understand now. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Because now I understand I let something slip. And something came in and changed everything. So I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board somewhere else. and correct myself so that the clarity that, no, you don't step up to me like that.
Yeah.
And then speak to me and then think that it's okay.
I just had a thought. This is a call for the truth card pull. This is an unofficial pull. But you all may have heard this before. You protect yourself by knowing who you are.
It's absolutely the truth. You decide, you must decide, and the thing you can decide is to protect yourself by knowing who you are. Yeah. And if you're unsure of who you are, decide that you are the one who will help change the family. Now, these are solutions that actually work, because a lot of times we're just broadsided.
Yeah.
We're just broadsided by what people say and do, or what we're laying in bed and I'm like, oh, that's what they were trying to do. You see the whole thing in panoramic color.
Well, after the fact, I should have did this. And you start thinking of all the things that you should have did in the conversation. Like, comment if that ever happened to you. I know it happened.
But the solution is, you must first elevate self.
Yeah.
So wherever you are, it might be an inch, it might be 10 miles. But wherever you are, move yourself to where you would like to be. Recognize that evolution means that you evolve. Each successive generation should evolve beyond the next. That's not a disrespect to the ones who came before. It is the greatest respect that we took those ingredients and made something even better. So,
Yes.
are you ready for the card pull?
Yeah, let's do the real card.
So we're going to call have Tarvars pull the card for the call of truth, call for the truth today, based on a question that he will tell us what the question is. And then we'll pull the card and share with you what the card is for today, and hope that what you have heard and experienced today is of some value and can help you in your navigating the dilemmas in your life.
I'm asking the cards to show us the truth as it relates to moving beyond the pain, suffering, and the lies within the DNA, so that we may evolve ourselves and our lineage.
And the card is...
It's so simple. Truth. Throat chakra. The way will be made for us if we call for the truth. And I would say the truth is what you were saying. Everything is you, reflecting you, back to you. So change you.
That's it. We thank you for joining us, and we hope that we will see you again soon. We leave you with the greetings of In Lakesh and Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude. Thank you.